For the past couple of weeks, I've been working on a meta retrospective for all the Payday games. Those nostalgia pangs have been hitting hard, and something about going back to the good old days of Payday 2's Car 4 locomotive builds felt irresistible to me. Yet, it's when I took an additional step backwards, I truly started to feel something. You see, my confession is that I'm not a true Payday OG. My most formative memories of the franchise were watching other people play Payday the Heist before finally giving Payday 2 a go during its 2013 beta period. I didn't go back and properly play the game that started this all off until I started making retrospective style comparison videos later into Payday 2's update cycle. So it was always a matter of playing the game for some wider purpose, not just to experience what the heist uniquely offers. I say all of this to make it clear that I don't suffer from nostalgia blindness, as you might have anticipated from this video's title. In many ways, I'm just playing the game for the sake of playing it properly for the first time, and I'm starting to better understand how it sparked an entire multi-million-dollar franchise despite its obvious limitations and cost-saving sacrifices. There is something unmistakably brilliant about Payday the Heist, something that makes it unlike any other game I've played, and still worth playing to this day, even with 2 sequels jostling for your time. Hopefully, over the next 20 or so minutes, I can convey to you why Payday the Heist absolutely still stands the test of time, even in late 2025, a bone density eroding 14 years since it was first released. I shudder to think. Anyway, on that note, stick around to hear more about an Apex Gaming PC giveaway at the end of the video, and enjoy a step into history.
Alright, entry point. Synchronize on my mark. Mark.
Check.
Remember, stay low, stay dark, avoid guards and gunfire. Here we go.
To put it simply, for anyone who has only experienced its more mechanically convoluted sequels, this is Payday stripped back. But as you know, complexity doesn't necessarily translate into superior gameplay, and neither does it lead to increased depth and variety. Just look at Payday 3's paper-thin skill system for reference. To be clear, I'm going to do my very best to not use Payday 2 or 3 as disparaging comparisons in this video. This isn't a video about why either game is bad or has particular issues. It's about why Payday the Heist is so bloody good. However, at times they do offer perfect foils to help give some insight into what the heist does so uniquely well, even in its simplicity, so apologies in advance. Back onto the fervent positivity though, by focusing on the core of what Payday as a concept has to offer, this macho kind of Hollywood-inspired crime fantasy, it moves from compelling moment to compelling moment almost effortlessly. The setting of each heist is utterly unique, often unabashedly inspired by 80s to early 2000s heist media, with each frankly ludicrous approach and objective offering just a tinge of realism to keep you grounded and not in total disbelief. First World Bank is Heat, it's the Dark Knight, and it's still probably the most instantly recognisable heist in the franchise's history, as the only one to make it into all 3 games so far. Its greatest strength is its simplicity and almost familiarity. I'm not giving myself away as some great bank robber here, it's the fact that all of its steps feel logical and true to what heist films have taught us, realistic or not. Manhandle some hostages, drill through a door, leverage pyrotechnics to break into the vault, bag the cash and make a break for it. No notes. Heisting perfection only bolstered by the grandeur of the institution we're robbing, and to be honest, those visuals do hold their own despite their age. So long as you don't look at the individual textures too closely, the graphical style does the heavy lifting quite competently, even in the diesel engine. Heat Street is also quite obviously inspired by Heat, probably the film Payday owes the most to. The double cross, the frenetic rush through the cluttered streets of New York as plans fall apart, the holdout and innovation at the crash site, smoking Matt out of his metal cage, and the final push up the main road. This heist is excellent at feeling cobbled together. It's clever in that it starts after the real heist was already pulled off, stealing printing plates before we even gain control of our characters. Show, don't tell is usually the only correct approach, yet here, starting in media res, is how Heat Street nails its pacing. From minute 1, it's all about the thrill of the chase, which works excellently, even getting a little insight into the potential cruelty the Payday gang are capable of in how they deal with Matt. Panic Room is where we need to start suspending our disbelief, as the more grounded heists give way to a truly Hollywood-exclusive plan. Ripping out a cash-packed panic room and using a chopper-propelled magnet to lift it back to the safe house is more than a little audacious, but here gameplay and the rule of cool wins out. The objective design here is frankly brilliant in terms of moving the crew around the claustrophobic playspace, and the spectacle is also pretty damn impressive, especially from the rooftop. Probably my favourite heist in this game. Green Bridge is another heist that thrives on the spectacle and atmosphere. The rainy setting, mangled bridge and swarming cop spawns make it fairly tough to ever catch your breath. It's yet another escort style heist, but played at a much faster pace, and the payoff at the scaffolding is more than enough to make this one feel unique. One of the tougher challenges the game has to offer, and the first heist to present us with a criminal objective that doesn't simply involve stealing. Diamond Heist, on the other hand, wears its inspiration on its sleeve. It really is that Mission Impossible or Hitman-inspired experience that felt necessary to round off the launch roster. The first heist to play around with stealth mechanics, albeit the system was fairly arbitrary at this stage. Its late-night corporate setting is another change of pace, being the first actual jewelry heist we ever attempt, hitting the trifecta of cash, gold, and diamonds in the initial release. A bit of a visual treat that also further cements us as absolute villains in this world due to the brutality we show the CFO. Slaughterhouse takes us back to a very Hollywood-style setting, evoking mafia themes with its meatpacking plant setting. Body disposal immediately comes to mind in this grimy location, with hooked up pig carcasses doubling as cover, making picking your shots that bit more difficult. Initially a hit on an armoured transport, this one continues the trend of forcing the gang through multiple distinct locations, something these early heist designs did exceptionally well, as they needed to offer more meat on the bone given the relatively tiny roster. The spectacle isn't always there with Slaughterhouse, but the environments are exceptionally well designed from a gameplay perspective. Believe it or not, these were the 6 heists the game launched with, but given their quality, a community built up around them, inspiring demand for the first ever DLC. Undercover is the first of 2 heists that arrive with the Wolfpack DLC, maintaining a similar quality whilst getting more creative in terms of overarching design. This one really introduced the idea of a setup phase, giving you time to fortify your favourite holdout spots in this shady abandoned apartment block. This heist also flexes its RNG muscles, with the initial car objective having many possible variations that drastically changes how you'll need to play the first section of the mission. The interrogation scene with the taxman is also a complete change of pace, again getting real gritty with what is a very unique loot objective, even by today's shorting stocks on Wall Street standards. Counterfeit took things a step further, getting closer to developing that crowd-controlling idea of stealth long before they actually pulled off the smash-and-grab approach in Payday 2. Taking us to suburban Miami was a shockingly successful change of pace, something I don't believe has ever been properly explored since, with Hoxton Revenge being about as close as we get. Again, this one appeals for its use of iconic heisting techniques, such as water cracking to protect the safe's contents from C4, something seen in the movie The Score that may or may not actually work, but feels kinda clever in terms of an objective through-line to complete this one. The booby-trapped room is the icing on the cake, giving you 2 very different objective layouts depending on how you approach it. Finally, No Mercy is Payday's first ever crossover heist with Valve and Left 4 Dead. It's an incredibly simple layout, basically turning the Mercy Hospital into a pure corridor shooter, although having a stealth plan A makes it totally unique. Otherwise, you're going to be doing a lot of drilling before testing samples from a soon-to-be zombified patient. Taken for what it is, it's honestly a brilliant mission that many years later would end up integral to the storyline, despite its rather non-canon origins. That's all 9 of Payday the Heist missions, at least on PC, without even touching on the ARG that led to the secret that was Overdrill, setting the precedent for Payday becoming this more cryptic franchise, an almost accidentally brilliant way to market the sequel, and still probably one of Payday's most searched terms online. But of course, all of these heists were eventually ported over to Payday 2, and outside of maybe Heat Street, Undercover, and Green Bridge, they all aim to expand upon the formula with deviating stealth approaches and expanding mechanics. So despite obviously deserving credit for being the progenitor, why am I so adamant that these heists are still worth experiencing in Payday the Heist specifically? Well, that comes down to the unique gameplay quirks I touched on at the start of the video. It's the essence of Payday distilled down to its most essential components. Punchy gunplay, adrenaline-spiky music, and a core roster of enemies who offer legitimate and unique threat at all times, all whilst being pushed through the experience by a series of objectives that aim to move you around the map naturally and occupy your time whilst never wasting it, giving the cops the opportunity to get the upper hand whilst you're distracted. Already, Starbreeze were working on that helmet-flying formula, making accurate headshots always rewarding, especially when the heavy visors crack and shatter. Weapon sounds, animations, and general gun feel are all also way ahead of their time. Spoilers for the meta video, but it was a bit black and white in Payday the Heist. However, even the weaker weapons have some source to them. I mean, this has to be the best rendition of the Car 4 or AMCAR we've ever seen. Having access to a pistol, primary and secondary adds variation that can go missing with its very linear weapon customization system tied to different specializations, whilst the advent of explosive options like the GL40 and the Wolfpack DLC gives us some actual weapon type variety to play around with. Shooting is satisfying, and that's even without hit markers, which gives it this sort of hardcore classic vibe at all times. Then on the other side of the coin, we have the cops. On the whole, you can expect Heist to play out less like a horde shooter. You will have more downtime, but in exchange for these moments of peace, SWATs are undoubtedly deadlier. They hit hard, and Payday the Heist health and armor system is very straightforward. You have endlessly recharging armor that breaks quickly and protects a relatively limited health pool, meaning cover is essential. Every time you go down, your revive timer and health pool will reduce until you use a medic bag, which does feel a little abusable compared to Payday 2's fix down system, but reviving is a trial in and of itself. This game is difficult and cops pull no punches. As I mentioned, they hit hard, but they also hit consistently, which is probably the biggest difference from Payday 3. Expect almost perfect accuracy from even standard cops, and very limited time to react when they turn corners. They're active and feel like they're hunting you down, although counterplay is still there, especially when it comes to the usual kiting strats. That's where Payday the Heist specials come in, and despite their sometimes unique designs, shall we say, they're always a threat. Cloakers feel a bit clunky compared to Payday 2's more strategic ambushes, but this is also the game that gave them their agile movement abilities. Shields are my least favourite specials, with the only real counterplay being the GL40, and snipers can be a little frustrating without the obvious lasers to give their positions away, but I think dozers and tasers easily take the cake in Payday the Heist. Tasers are monstrous, they're far tankier than what we've gotten used to, and their potential stun range is gargantuan. Dozers are a little more straightforward, not being as tanky as their more modern variants, but instead dialing up their damage and, most importantly, aggression. They will charge you down, but I have to say, what's impressed me more than just the core SWAT behaviour is how they function as a unit. The way spawns are designed is smart, because they never need to flood the heist and overwhelm you with sheer numbers. They'll instead creep up on you, or spawn from logical locations such as choppers or police vans, meaning you won't necessarily see hundreds of boys in blue appearing out of dead-end corridors. And because they can pin you down and cover is absolutely essential for staying alive, when they start flanking you or even breaching walls like on Undercover, the game genuinely warps into being more about just repelling the assault instead of forcing through objectives with the impossible to balance skills and perks from Payday 2 that are fun but just result in a very different experience. It's much closer to that release Payday 3 design, the tug of war between cop and heister, just without the punishing focus on attrition, meaning you always feel like you're in with a chance and can recover from any hopeless situation. The objective design supports this even further, as it mostly comes down to extended interactions with interesting heist objectives. Your drills, your thermite, your cash bags. For the most part, these are all very soloable objectives, although the interaction time is quite lengthy, which enforces team play and cover fire naturally, rather than pigeonholing you into needing to play with others. I sometimes think moving towards the true loot bags we see on Slaughterhouse that became the norm from Payday 2 onwards was a bit of a mistake. It leads to copious amounts of busy work that will almost always penalise a solo player. Instead, I feel like co-op is better off being emphasised by pervasive touches, such as showcasing named areas of a heist for easy call-outs to lean into better communication. It's a gentle touch to encourage the intended cooperation without any of the prohibitive elements that can make solo play so tedious. Finally, they also tried to do something fairly unique with the camera mechanic. This obviously didn't come back in Payday 2, where cameras were used purely in stealth, but destroying these can prevent the possibility of certain cop spawning events, or simply delay the spawns of special units. A fun idea just to experience, even if it didn't have the legs as a mechanic in future games. Difficulty-wise, the game is also rock solid, and not in the way Payday 2 can be on DSOD. Everything needs to be a little slower because you can't become damage immune or fire infinite bullets. Instead, it's all about consistency in those moment-to-moment decisions. Patience, timing, mechanical understanding of spawns, these are deciding factors in success or failure, not build or individual weapon skill. I think the game also offers a legitimate relative challenge across all difficulties too. I haven't even had the chance to experience Overkill 145, so can't speak for just how nightmarish it can become at the very top end, but the cops feel dangerous from normal to Overkill, yet so does your crew. The team AI was also more than competent in my experience, leaving me wondering how they released it in the state they did at Payday 2's launch. The soundtrack is obviously also immense. It has this slightly more stripped back feel to match the gameplay, but the result of that is that each track feels exceptionally individual and will often dictate the pace of play in an almost trance-like fashion. Above anything else though, I need to touch on what elevates this game beyond what you can experience in Paydays 2 or 3. That comes down to the characters and their many interactions. With a tight roster of just Dallas, Chains, Hoxton, Wolf, and Bane, and two of those characters already voiced in-house by devs doubling up, they were free to go crazy with the voice lines. All heists have bespoke interactions and banter between the crew that makes the game feel alive. You'll hear teammates call out a location on the map, get frustrated when something goes wrong, and celebrate their brazen successes. They'll even try to problem solve together. Bane feels like a guiding voice, but not an infallible source of truth. The boots on the ground are always the ones with the final say, as those with the ability to react to what's playing out in front of them. This goes even further when you spot Chains here inspecting the loot on Panic Room with fervent excitement, or hear Wolf's heat speech on First World Bank, which as we know has been cut down to barely a few lines in Payday 3. You get the sense these criminals live for this, and desperately want to succeed in these heists. I know they're meant to be younger and more ambitious, but I sometimes feel like I'm dragging these guys on heists against their will in Payday 3. Shade is calling every shot, and outside of a few passive comments and the admittedly excellent pager lines you'll rarely hear, you might as well be playing silent protagonists doing busy work for their boss. The Payday gang of Payday the Heist are a crew. They have underlying relationships, a sense of humanity in how they interact, and as characters propelled the game into franchise status with their enduring popularity driven by their distinct appearances and personalities. Of course, as much as I have waxed lyrical about this game, it's not without its issues. Heist variety is poor, with only 9 in total, and as much as these are flagship experiences with a tremendous amount of depth, they don't offer all the trademark RNG of Payday 2. Stealth 2 was a massive draw in the future games, and one of the few areas where I think each iteration is growing and improving from release to release. What I will say though is that from a lab perspective, stealth can be baggage, impacting the pacing and objective design in places. Payday the Heist runs into none of these issues, so as long as you're not a stealth only guy, it's still well worth your time. Progression is sort of interesting, with cash translating purely into player levels, which in turn can level up the different linear upgrade paths. The linearity isn't ideal, but there is something to be said for the simplicity of it all, and funnily enough, challenges can speed up your leveling progress, working as would have been preferred 12 years later when Payday 3 tried something similar. The game is also a little buggy at times, owing to its diesel engine roots, but nothing you won't be familiar with from this series. Lastly, masks were also genius from a marketing standpoint, and I love the way they were mostly unlocked through pure gameplay, but we wouldn't see their full potential until Payday 2 and its deeper customization system. Stepping back, Payday the Heist is a bit of a one-of-a-kind game. Any title that can spark a franchise has to have done something right, and I think what this game does most commendably is it nails its identity. It never makes any false pretense as to what it is. It had precise direction and a focused team willing to put in that extra legwork to voice act and pull double shifts. It also understands its roots, the Left 4 Dead heritage and heist movies it so effortlessly simulates. I think this game has aged exceptionally well, and in some ways it's only with age I've come to appreciate its ability to always fill the same continuous space. As Payday 2 has gone through its lengthy transformation, and in many ways Payday 3 is no longer recognisable from launch, you start to see the value of the earnest authenticity you can only seem to get from a game released 10 plus years ago. It's always gonna be there, offering that crystallised form of Payday we'll never quite see again. It's gritty and compelling and just fun. It reignited something in me, and so I hope I can convince a few of you watching to pick it back up again, just to see if it resonates with you more now as it does with me. With all the chatter around Killing Floor 3 and its predecessors, I'm sort of in that mood, or maybe I'm just getting old. Thank you so much for watching this video. As promised, if you follow the link in the description, you'll be taken to my usual Apex Gaming PC page, where you can enter a giveaway for a PC worth $5,000, which I think is well worth a few clicks to check out. Take care, and I'll see you all very soon in the next video.
Get to the chopper! Splendid!
A huge thank you to my dedicated Patreon backers. If you want to join this crew in going infamous, check out the link below and pledge as little as $2 to see your name in the credits, or get 24-hour early access to future videos and vote on upcoming content. Take care, I'll see you all soon.